Wonderful, everybody. So now, Harold, let us turn to Psalms.
Yes, today's read in is by Linda Solomon, who will be giving us Levy's version of Psalm 27. Hold on. Here we go.
I just want to say that I'm offering this in memory of my father, whose yahrzeit is today. He died 58 years ago, and I miss him every day. Of David, Adonai is my light and my victory. From whom should I feel fright? Adonai is the stronghold of my life. From whom should I feel terror? When evildoers approach me in battle to feed on my flesh, my pursuers, my adversaries, they have stumbled, they have fallen down. If a camp encamps against me, my heart will not fear. If a war arises against me, in this I would trust. One thing have I sought from Adonai, how I long for it, that I may live in the house of Adonai all the days of my life, that I may look upon the sweetness of Adonai and spend time in the palace, that you might hide me in your sukkah on a chaotic day. Hide me in the hiding places of your tent. Raise me high upon a rock. Now my head rises high above my enemies round about, and in your tent I'll offer offerings to the sound of truah. I shall sing and chant praises to Adonai. Hear, Adonai, my voice. I am crying out. Be gracious to me. Answer me. My heart has said to you, seek my face. I am seeking your face, Adonai. Do not hide your face from me. Do not turn your servant away in anger. You have been my help. Do not forsake me. Do not abandon me, God of my deliverance. For my father and mother have abandoned me. Yet Adonai gathers me up. Make your path apparent to me. Guide me in the upright road, because of those up ahead who lie in wait for me. Do not hand me over to the lust of my adversaries, for false witnesses have risen against me, puffing violently. Had I not the faith that I would see the goodness of God in the land of life. Wait for Adonai. Fill your waiting with hope in Adonai. Let your heart be strong and of good courage, and wait hopefully for Adonai.
Thank you. Beautiful, Linda. And I want to say for everybody, by reciting Psalm 27 at the beginning of every class, and those of you who are going to a morning minyan, you're doing it there as well. It's a reminder that we're in the month of Elul. And so you should be taking that to heart and remembering that we now are in this 30-day period to Rosh Hashanah, that we should be a little bit of a utz, to focus, to be aware, to think of the work you want to be doing in your life, in your world between here and Rosh Hashanah, besides logistical things. What are the things you want to be doing in your life that will have an impact in your world? What are the ways you want to face some changes? What are the things you want to do looking back at this past year? During this month, take some time to do this cheshbon hashana. We talk about a cheshbon hanefesh, an accounting of the soul. And it's also one way to do it is if you can sit down, you can say, oh, that's just too big. What do I do? What's my soul? What's the condition of my life, right? One concrete way to do it is to really spend some time thinking about where were you last year at this point? What was the journey of your year from last Elul to this Elul? Literally pull out your calendars, or if they're on your computer or your phone, or I still use a hard copy calendar. I just want to say I still use a hard copy calendar, but whatever it is, do something where you literally take time to go back to where and what your life was like last Elul, what it was through the year to arrive to this Elul, and take that seriously. take it to heart. And some of you in this group in our gathering have had a very traumatic year. Some have had a year full of personal losses, some of some personal triumphs and gains. But kind of really, I would urge you to actually do this in writing, to sit down and kind of go through the year as we're doing the work to be present, to be fully present now, to take this year as we're about to, on Rosh Chodesh Tishrei, observe 5782 beginning upon us. So take this time seriously. And every time you hear Psalm 27, it's another opportunity to remind yourself that's where we are in the life of our year. Okay, Harold, what are we up to now?
We are at Psalm 26.
Excellent.
So I share the Levy, Psalm 26?
Yes, let's do Levy. I've been enjoying starting with Levy.
Okay.
So we will not be studying Psalm 27 again, since we did it last year for a month. We're going to do 26 today for the couple of days, and then the next Psalm we'll be studying will be Psalm 28. Okay, but we'll continue reciting Psalm 27. So Psalm 26, who wants to read it in Hebrew and then in English?
Aura is Rocky raised her hand. Is that English or Hebrew, Aura?
Whichever one.
English.
English, all right, so we need a Hebrew reader. Waiting for a hand. Ben Shafrin went up. Ben, I will let you take it away with the Hebrew and then Aura with the English.
לדוד, שבתני אדוני, כי אני בתומי הלכתי, ובאדוני בטחתי לא אמעד. בחננני אדוני ונשני, צרפה חיליותי וליבי, כי חסדך לנגד עיני, והתהלכתי בעמיתך. לא ישבתי עם מתי שבא, ועם נעלמים לא אבוא, שנאתי קהל מרעים, ועם רשעים לא אשב, אחץ בניקיון כפיי, ואסובבה את מזבחך, אדוני. לשמיע בקול תודה ולספר כל נפלאותיך. אדוני, אהבתי מעון ביתך ומקום משכן כבודך. אל תאסוף עם חטאים נפשי ועם אנשי דמים חיי, אשר בידיהם זימה וימינם מלאה שוחד. ואני בתומי אלך, בדני וחנני. רגלי עמדה במישור, במקהלים אברך אדוני.
I believe that is the end. Is that correct? Yes.
Yes, this is
Okay.
12 verses.
So Aura with the English.
Of David, judge me Adonai, for I have walked in my integrity, and in Adonai have I trusted. I do not waver. Test me, Adonai, try me. Examine my inmost self, my heart. For your covenantal love is before my eyes, and I have trod the limits of your truth. I have not sat down with liars. I do not enter the company of those who hide their motives. I hate a throng of evildoers. I will not sit down with the wicked. When I wash my hands in innocence, let me make a circuit of your altar, Adonai, to listen to the voice of thanksgiving and to tell the stories of all your wonders. Adonai, I love the crannies of your house and the place your glory calls home. As for me, do not gather me up with sinners. Do not entwine my life with bloody toughs, whose hands are raw with deceit, whose right hand overflows with bribes. For my part, I shall keep walking in my integrity. Rescue me, be gracious to me. My foot stands upright. In throngs I shall declare, blessed is Adonai.
Thank you. So Psalm 26, first of all, we notice it is 12 verses, so it's not in the shortest category, but it's in a fairly compact number. It's not a long one. Starts with David. Again, I like the and you see in the Hebrew, for those of you who are Hebrew readers, he says Perek 26. That is the way we talk about the chapters of this book of Psalms. We don't talk about them as poems. We don't even say, the way traditionally you refer to a psalm number is perek. In Hebrew, you don't even say, because it's a little weird, right? How would you say the singular of Tehillim? It's a little weird. You don't say Tehillah. You don't say Mizmor. You really say Perek 26, just for those who want to know how it's done. And Levi says that in English, we say Psalm 26. But that's quite an interesting difference between how the Hebrew refers to each psalm and how the English does. So we're going to go through this. I'm seeing everything through the lens of Elul, and each of these psalms. I thought 25 was so powerful for me, given that we're in Elul. 26 certainly is. We're going to go through this, the Hebrew, but I want to point out before we. Does anybody recognize verse 8? Adonai ahavti me'on beitecha umkon mishkan kvodecha. Sound familiar to anybody? It's from, we use it as one of the verses of Ma Tovu. So here's another example of how a verse will be plucked out from the middle of a psalm, and together with a bunch of other verses from psalms creates the very powerful prayer, the very powerful prayer of Ma Tovu. Ma Tovu, the psalm, the prayer we say very often in Jewish liturgy, is made up of a bunch of different verses from psalms, and it's fun to see where they are. This one is one of the very famous lines. Adonai ahavti me'on beitecha. As Adonai ahavti, I love the translation here, the crannies of your house and the place your glory calls home. That's from that's we sing that all the time whenever we sing Ma Tovu or Yadav Ma Tovu. Okay, so now there's an overall feel to this psalm that's quite different, one would say, than some of the other psalms we've read. Ben, is it your hand up to read or to comment on that?
To comment, actually. First
Okay.
reading, as I just did, two things struck me. Verse 8 as related to Psalm 27, Achad Ahavti, very similar. But especially verse 4, it's almost like Psalm 1, Asher Ha'ish Asher Lo Yashav.
Fantastic, Ben, that's fantastic. Very often through our study of the Psalms, many of you have said, I don't know, I try to be a good person. Hello, this is describing such a horrible person. I screw up sometimes, but mostly God, notice that I'm trying to do a good, I'm trying to live according to these things. And I do feel like this is very much exactly what Ben said. It's a little bit of an answer to that question, not only of Psalm 1, but of the other Psalms. Who will rise to? Who don't do this, don't do that. This is the psalmist saying, here's how I'm trying to live my life. Let's go through it. So Ben, I'm thrilled that you made that connection and saw that. I agree with you completely. And it very much is the psalm of somebody who's really trying to do the right thing. We're not terrible people. We're not the people who have blood on our hands. The mistakes we make, they're big, but they're not, come on, so let's look at the psalm a little bit. I'm going to walk through the Hebrew and do some translation. You've got the English on that side, and I'll talk a little bit about some of Levi's choices. So first of all, it starts, which I think is beautiful. Judge me, shafteni. Again, here's the shoresh, very important shoresh in Psalms, actually throughout the Bible, and Parshat Shoftim, of course. The Parshat Hashavua, Shin Pei Tet, is the very important shoresh, which has to do with judging. Beit HaMishpat is a court. It's a mishpat can be a law, or it can be a sentence. You can be sentencing. I think in modern Hebrew it means sentencing, right, Ben? Like a sentence. What's a sentence in a judgment, right? Is that there's a court,
Wow.
court issue?
I think it's Zohar, but I'm not familiar
Okay.
with it.
I'm not sure, but Beit HaMishpat is a court, just the standard word for court. It's a very regular, there's nothing fancy about that. And but Shoftim are judges. Lishpot is to judge. So here this is saying, judge me. This is feels very meaningful in Elul. Like, okay, look at my life, God. Don't just tell me what I'm not doing right. Judge me. Ki ani, because I, betum'i, this is a shoresh, which means simple or pure or unglommed up, very simple plural, because I have walked in my integrity or my honesty, or it could mean honest or simple or pure. This is saying innocence. Good. That's a good, innocence. So that's a good kind. Judge me. Look at me, God. I'm trying the best I can. I have walked in my integrity and my innocence. Uva Yud He Vav He, and in Yud He Vav He, in God, in the power of the universe. Batachti. We've talked a lot about the shoresh bet, tet, chet, bitachon, security, betach. Because in Yud He Vav He, I have trusted, I've been secure. Lo emad, I have not wavered, I have not wiggled. And then this is so powerful, right? I'm going to read from the text here. B'choneni. Bochen is a test. It's like an examination. Examine me, God, Yud He Vav He, unasini, and test me. Like this is like, okay, here I am. I'm trying the best I can. Examine me, test me. Tzorfa chiliotai v'libi. Examine my most innermost parts, my innards and my heart. Ki chastecha. Now this goes back to Ari Mans's description last couple of weeks ago of chesed, or what is chesed, because here it is, your covenantal love is always leneged einai, in front of my eyes or opposite my eyes. In other words, I'm always aware of this relational love, which includes responsibility. V'hit halachti, I have walked b'amitecha. In the bet, there is not part of the shoresh. The shoresh is aleph, mem, taf, emet, which I think Harold is on the Yale. Isn't Emet, truth and light, on the Yale?
It's Urim v'Tumim.
Oh, there you go, Tumim. I thought the Emet was, okay.
No.
Amitecha, in your truth. Look, God, I am trying my best. I'm living a life aware of your presence. I try to live with integrity. Lo yashavti imitei shav. Now, going back to Psalm 1, if you have it in front of you, I'm just going to flip back to read out loud. Remember, the first verse of Psalm 1 is, Ashrei ish, happy is the human, asher lo halach b'atzat rishaim, who has not walked with the advice of evil people or evildoers, uvederach hataim lo amad, and in the path of sinners has not stood, uvemoshav leitzim, and in the living place of leitzim, also cheaters or bad people, lo yashav, has not sat down. Remember that beginning where there's 3 levels of doing evil? Okay, lo yashavti, using the same verb. I have not sat down with those who are, are mitei shav, don't say the truth, or liars. Ve'im na'omim lo avo. And I have not hung out with I've not gone with those who are na'omim, mean hiders or sneaky people. Saneti kahal miraim. Lisno is to hate. Sin nun aleph is to hate. I have hated the gathering. Kahal is a community or a congregation or a gathering. I have hated gatherings of evil people. V'im risha'im lo eshev, exactly what we heard in Psalm 1, as Ben pointed out. And with evil people, I don't sit down, I don't live, I don't lie. Erchatz b'nikayon kapai. Nikayon kapai is an idiom. But I wash, erchatz, I wash my hands, b'nikayon, in innocence. My innocence are, my hands don't have blood on them. Kind of, we would say in English, my hands don't have blood on them, meaning I'm not guilty. V'aso v'va, from the shoresh sin bet, to circle sivuv or sivavon, what's the word? Sivavon.
Sivivon.
Sivavon, thank you. A dreidel in Hebrew is to spin around. I will turn around Mizbecha, your altar, Yud Hei Vaveh, lashmi'ah b'kol todah. I'm listening to the voices of gratitude. Ul saper kol niflotecha. And to talk about, to repeat all niflotecha, all of your wonders, all of your glories, I'm doing all the right things. Yud Hei Vav Hei Ahavti Ma'on Betecha. Now the pasuk that's in the Matovu. So the verses 4 through 7 describe all the things I'm not doing, how I'm staying away from, 4 to 6, I'm staying away from all the bad people. And so it says we have Saneti, I hate being around the evil people, but what do I love? Ahavti Me'on Betecha. I love every part of your holiness and the makom mishkon kvadecha, and the place, the mishkan, the holy place in which your kavod is glory or honor, but it's a biblical reference to God's presence. It's one of the classical biblical references, not just to honor or glory. It means God's presence. Al te'asof im chata'im nafshi. As for me, I don't want to be gathered up with the chata'im, v'im anshe damim chayai, and don't put my life with those whose lives are full of bloodiness. Asher bedehem zima, whose hands are raw with deceit, v'mima mala shachar, whose right hand overflows with bribes. So you'll be happy to see that here we have the right hand doing something bad. So just for those of you lefties who felt like the left has got gets a bad rep, here's the right hand doing something bad. As for me, ani b'tumi, going back to the tumi, innocence or pure, or it can even mean a little naive, but it means here pure. Elech, I will keep walking. And he repeats the word integrity. Hideni v'choneni, rescue me, be gracious to me. On the account of all these things, I'm trying to do the right thing. Ragli amda mishor, my regel, my leg, amda stands up, straight, upright. Bimakelim avarech yud hei vaveh. And in my gatherings, I will say, avarech, I will bless yud hei vaveh. So quite different from some of the other Psalms, which are full, now that we've talked about, there are Psalms of lamentation, Psalms of pain, Psalms of exaltation. This is a very interesting Psalm because it's an expression of one of these, of what I think a lot of us feel. Okay, I'm basically living a decent life. Bless me. I think it's a very powerful one for the time of Elul, for those who can relate to this. So any comments or questions about this so far?
All right, I'm going to be looking at participants for hands. Sorry if this covers part of the screen. Okay, Dean will be first, then Sarah, then Ben. Dean Dresser.
Yeah, Rabbi, what I'm interested in is that, as for me, do not gather me up with sinners, do not continue my life with bloody troughs. Is the psalmist like holding God? I mean, it's sort of like, aren't bad people kind of our human responsibility?
Say that again.
I'm a little confused. Is the psalmist
question? Say it again.
Is the psalmist then asking God to redeem him from bad people, or is he asking God to separate himself out from bad people?
I think a little bit both. I think the psalmist is saying, this is the way I'm trying to lead my life. Help me do that. But it's not, I don't feel the level of despair or fear that we hear in some of the other Psalms.
Okay.
Let me hear what other people, that's just my take on it. Let's see as we go to it.
Sarah
Others?
Siegel.
Yeah, Rabbi Kleinbaum, I'm not sure I agree, only because if
a person feels like they're doing fine, they don't need to write a psalm. I mean, they don't, like, I think that this guy or woman or non-binary person is feeling like, I know, I'll try a new approach. I'm just gonna, no, really, I think, because I was inspired by Alicia in the chat writing, this is quite the brave psalmist, and I thought, or desperate. And I thought, this could be a kind of desperation too.
Interesting.
Here I am doing everything, pretty much by the book. You have got to help me out here. So that's my feeling about it.
Interesting. Okay, I love this. Keep going.
Ben Shafran.
Well, I have a question that's perhaps esoteric grammar, but I'm having difficulty with it, and I wonder if there's any significance to that. In verse 1.
Hopefully there'll be people here who can handle esoteric grammatical questions. Okay.
Everything is in the past tense, except the very last two words, lo emad, which is in the future. Now, Levy's translation is I do not waver. But then it should really be lo ma'adati. The fact that it changes tense, does that have any particular meaning?
Oh, that's an interesting. So first of all, it's not actually future tense, it's imperfect. Remember, we talked about biblical Hebrew is imperfect versus perfect. And imperfect means any action that's not completed, which includes the future, of course. But I do not waver would be an example of imperfect, even though in English we talk about past, present, future, meaning it's an ongoing action that has not been completed. That's why I think lo emad works. It means the psalmist is saying, I am not wavering. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But why? But the other question I can't answer is shafteni. So maybe somebody else here can answer that. Is that really perfect tense? Maybe somebody else can help us with that. But that's what you have to get rid of the idea of past versus future, because that's true in modern Hebrew. It's not true in biblical Hebrew.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's one of the ways that Israelis have a hard time understanding sometimes what the biblical language is trying to say, because we're modern people putting that on. But I can't answer the question about shafteni. I'm going to think about that more.
Barbara Grindell.
Yes, thank you, Harold, for putting it back up. I have it somewhere, your copy. I just wanted to make a comment about starting with line 3. I love the words that he uses. Test me. Then the next line has my heart. So it's test me, heart, eyes are in the next line in 3. And I have tried within the limits. So a small, narrow kind of limit. I haven't gone out of the lines kind of thing. And then there was one other part that I really loved. With the crannies, I put in nook and cranny, and it's like I love every part of your house. To the last little speck that I'm going to find in there, I'm going to love all of it. I just like the language. I'm just reacting to the language of leaving. So.
Yeah.
Sherry says to look at the first note there. Sherry, I do not waver. One might translate lo emad either in the present tense, I do not waver, or in the present perfect tense, I have not wavered. The present tense seems better to capture the poet's determination to continue to live a life of integrity.
Okay.
Which would be imperfect.
Yeah.
Right.
Betsy.
Yeah, Levy has a lot of great comments. For those of you who have the book, it's all, whenever we're studying a psalm, definitely the comments, he really does a couple of pages of comments, as does Alter. Some of the others don't. Those 2 books are great for comments and really worthwhile to look at. Even if we don't do that particular translation or interpretation in class, really worthwhile for you to look at them. We're not going to do each of every one.
Betsy Immershan.
I was just, it's interesting in terms of Sarah's feeling like this is desperate. I felt this was someone just kind of acknowledging how they felt about themselves and their sense of being alone except with God in this kind of integrity, not so much a sense of desperation, but maybe almost both celebrating and a loneliness of living that kind of life. I mean, you mentioned Soloveitchik earlier. It's like the lonely man of faith.
One of my favorite books, by the way.
Yes, I studied that for a year in graduate school. And it's, so this strikes me more in that way, as opposed to, but desperation is an interesting way. I think it borders on desperation sometimes when we feel lonely. And so I think it's a kind of continuum. But it's
fascinating. That's fascinating. Thank you. I learned so much from all of you. And I
also, I'm sorry. I was just also going to say, Rabbi Moskowitz this morning talked about the sense of how we always have choices of how we focus and spend our day. And that relationship with God is about choosing that action instead of, I'll paraphrase, being lazy. And I think it was it Barbara Gunnell who just commented, and I think part of what you were saying, Barbara, fits with what he was talking about this morning too. It's very interesting.
Thank you.
That is all the hands.
Linda Solomon's hands.
Oh, I'm sorry, Linda Solomon.
Thank you. Thank you for noticing, Rabbi. One of the things I always go to after I've read Levi is my Matsuda Tehillim, the wonderful book that I got from CBST of Psalms. And I love some of the comments that the rabbi who posted all of this writes. And for 26, he writes, David's entire life was one great yearning for divine truth, purity, and spiritual perfection. In his later years, David asked God to test him, feeling that he has attained the perfection after patriarchs. So when he talks about a psalm that is written for David, of David, by David, for David, he always writes something that I find very interesting about that. And this, I find his explanation of this psalm to be very helpful as I read it.
Beautiful.
Rabbi, you wanted to take a quick look at Bernstein?
Look at Bernstein, and then we'll hold off other comments just so that today we'll have looked at these two. I want to actually, so who wants to read this?
Well, Sherry had her hand up, so why don't we let Sherry read it?
Okay, I'll read it even though it was Simon's hand.
Oh,
Sorry, Simon, we want you to play the flute. We want Sherry to read this.
No, I did have a question, but we can do it another time. Go ahead, read it.
Look inside the me of me, into my eyes, into my soul, and see my love unwavering. My love for you is real, present, if you look or not, there, if you care or not. Test me if you doubt my love, golden through fire. It will only emerge refined, unscorched, rekindled. I play by your rules, not theirs. It's your light up ahead that guides my path. I've washed my hands of things I've done and stay away from dirt. I found myself, my space that's yours, your place, your palace, you. And now in found tranquility, I pray you keep me there.
All right. So I thought that would be interesting to quickly contrast those or compare and contrast. And any thoughts about Bernstein?
all right. Any thoughts about Bernstein? I'm waiting for a hand.
I love the look inside the me of me. I think that's
Right.
I really think it's fantastic. And that's her understanding of judge me. To kind of look at you who can see calmness tarot, all the hidden things. Look inside the me of me. I really like that.
I haven't been a huge Bernstein fan, but this last stanza feels very Emily Dickinsonian to me, especially and now in found tranquility, I pray you keep me there. It just felt all of a sudden like with a little bit more of dashes or spaces. It could be Emily Dickinson.
Absolutely, Harold. Love that. Yeah, I see that.
Lori Spear.
I think the reason I like Bernstein is typified in this psalm. If you look at Levy's version, the psalmist starts out with, look how well I've done. You know, I've been innocent. I stayed away from liars. I stayed away from evildoers. And she doesn't start with this, you know, I've been really a good person. She just skips all that. And I think she gets right into the, let's have a relationship.
Beautiful.
And I think that's really, I find that the Levy, I mean, given David's sins of his youth and his lust, for him to say, I've walked in integrity and I've stayed away from liars. I mean, I can't square that circle. So
well, I don't worry so much about who actually wrote it. I don't.
Yeah, no, I know what I'm saying is.
I got it. And I love that comment. Beautiful comment.
But she just starts with okay, but let's talk to each other.
I think also an Elul to say to God, look inside the me of me, not the, just go right in there. Yeah. Okay.
So I think we have time for one more person, Jack Neiman, who has not contributed yet today.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was just, well, it seems that this person has a pretty good opinion of themselves. You know, I mean, I didn't do this and I didn't do, I don't know, it just seems a little bit hubristic to me. So like, I deserve all of it. I don't know. It just, I mean, who has that opinion of themselves?
Lots of people.
Well, I think,
but I know, but like,
I think it sounds like what a lot of us have said in reading some of the Psalms. We're trying to live a good life. We're not people who are going around cheating and stealing every day. We're not, you know, that. So I think there's a role for that. At least that's what it sounds like to me. Look, I'm trying my best. I'm leading. I'm not, you know, I'm not out there doing the really horrible things we see in the world. But we're going to continue with Psalm 26 tomorrow, but we're going to finish Psalm 26 tomorrow. So if you have, look at all your various translations and interpretations and get ready to do your own personal writings of it, because we're going to do this Psalm in 2 days, because it's, I think we can do it tomorrow. We're going to look at some of the other translations and interpretations.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for a wonderful class.
Wonderful class, everybody. Good to see everybody. See you tomorrow. Today is Wednesday, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, see everybody tomorrow. The room will stay open for a few minutes.